Okay, thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Planning and Development Committee meeting. It's Monday, April 9th, 2018. It's about 7:35. We do have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is approval of regular meeting minutes of March 12th. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, any changes or corrections? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to move on to our first item for consideration. I have no one on our sign-up sheet. I don't know what's wrong with all you guys, but nobody has anything to say, which is really unusual. If there is anyone here who wants to comment on anything on the agenda, would you let me know now and sign in? Okay, well then that citizen comment then is closed for the balance of the meeting. So the first item on the agenda is P1, the grant renewal for homeless management information system to the Alliance to End Homelessness in Suburban Cook County. And that is on our agenda for action tonight.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, and any discussion? Okay, staff, anybody want to say anything, speak to this? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All righty. P2 is ordinance 46018, granting a special use for a Type 2 restaurant, Frio Gelato, at 1301 Chicago Avenue. It's for introduction tonight. Zoning Board of Appeals and city staff recommend adoption of the ordinance. It's a Type 2 restaurant in the B1 Business District in the ODM Dempster Main Overlay District. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Alderman Nguyen, did you want to, is anyone here tonight from Frio Gelato?
They've already sold more gelato in February than they did in July last year.
That's pretty good.
And I
That's
love gelato, so.
Yeah, we love gelato for anyone who wants to know. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Moving right along, our third item is P3, Ordinance 47018, amending the definition of coach house in the City Code, Section 618.3. Staff recommends amending the zoning code to modify the definition of a coach house. And that's for introduction tonight. Is there a motion to introduce?
Move to introduce.
Second.
Okay, and discussion, please. Alderman Wilson?
I'd like to just, I don't want to talk about it too much. I have a few things, but I'm fine just discussing it at council when it's up for action. So if we can just move it along. We've got a lot of people tonight and a long agenda, so.
Okay, anybody else want to say anything here at committee? Okay, then we'll send it on to council with your approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, again, racing right through this agenda. I think we're under 5 minutes. We're at 2 minutes for the first three items. So P4 is Ordinance 40018, amending the city code, permitted obstructions in required front yards, general provisions relating to front porches. Following discussion with the current and former zoning Board of Appeals chair, staff recommends the proposed text amendment be referred back to the Plan Commission for additional discussion, and that's for introduction. Can someone just make a motion to introduce, please?
Move to introduce.
Second.
Okay. Alderman Rainey, did you want to speak to this?
Yes. I had a conversation with those who came before us at our last meeting, and they've suggested that we not send this back to the Plan Commission, that we simply introduce it and discuss it among ourselves and come up with the proper wording and just keep it here.
And I agree with that.
Okay, so let's just keep it here. We'll introduce it, maybe keep it in committee when we're not so overwhelmed with everything else, and discuss it at our next meeting.
Okay, and we do have other
that
reports
okay?
that are coming along with that. Mr. City Manager, did you want to say something about that?
Yes, Alderman Fisk, members of the committee. It was our error on the recommended action. Our recommendation would be to send it back to the Plan Commission and have those parties work on that versus.
But that's not what I'd
We-
like.
yeah, we
I'd like
don't
to
wanna
keep
do
it here.
Okay, I'm sorry, in transit, just wanted to make sure that there was not a misunderstanding.
No,
for the
I
agenda.
think
Thank
we'll
you.
keep
I
it here
apologize.
unless anyone
My
has a
apologies.
strong opinion
We
to
can
the contrary.
figure this out.
Pardon me?
We can figure this out.
Somehow or another,
I know.
we'll be able to deal with it here.
With your leadership, we'll figure this
Yeah,
out.
and save a little bit of time and in the effort. Okay, then we'll keep it in committee. Everyone's agreed? All righty. Okay, we'll have items for discussion. The first one is PD1, Open Communities Report. For Per an aldermanic request, staff is providing information on the number of clients served in 2017 by Open Communities for discussion. I don't know who referred this. Do we know? Who?
I may have.
Okay.
I certainly have questions. I don't know if I'm the only one, but Alderman Fleming as well.
Sorry, I couldn't hear it.
Do we have a report coming forth? Thank you. So just some concerns. I know that this is who we're exclusively referring for our landlord-tenant issues and other housing issues, fair housing issues. And I have repeatedly received feedback from our residents that they're not getting service. They're not getting callbacks. And so I'm concerned about that. And I would like to know more about what we should expect of them and know if there's some adjustments that should be made. But I'm not sure what Alderman
Well, I
Fleming
actually
had.
had the same thing. This was brought to my attention. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. This was brought to my attention by a couple of residents as well, and I tried to call over myself, and was a delay in return phone call, and then a little bit of delay in service. And so again, I don't know what the expectation should be. I know that I was told there was some staffing turnover and such, but it would be good to have some clarity in terms of if people should expect a phone call back in 24 hours, 48 hours, and a little bit more about the process since they are a paid vendor of ours. And then also, I guess I would suggest that city staff is working with them because now there's 2 reported, maybe more, where we've had this issue.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Savannah Clement. We did have a funding application from them that was supposed to go on the last week's Housing and Homelessness Commission agenda, but because of our concerns about their staffing and their ability to implement the program, we've held that. We don't feel it's appropriate right now to bring that to the Housing Commission and then on to you all. So we are going to be working with them to figure out, they have had a lot of transition and a lot of turnover, and so we want to figure out the best way to move forward before we bring another funding application. So we will be looking into all of this.
Have we staffed this work before?
With staff from the city.
Good evening, Sarah Flax, Housing and Grants Administrator. We have not staffed the this type of function, excuse me, since I think it was 2008 or 9 when the city had a human relations department, and actually it isn't our recommendation that we go back to having someone on staff. It's not the best. Frequently, it's not necessarily the best way to get services, but we are looking into, there has been some instability at Open Communities. We are aware of that, and that's what we're looking into. And as Savannah said, we didn't feel it was appropriate to bring a request for funding until we staff are more confident that those issues have been resolved.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Wilson?
I think everybody's kind of covered it, but one of the things that I guess caused me concern, it seems that this organization is moving towards a more of an advocacy kind of model as opposed to providing services, so I didn't know if that was relevant in that ongoing relationship.
Well, it's certainly something that we have to look at and determine that they are doing the direct services that we are paying them to get, and that their advocacy is separate from that. It's fairly frequent that an organization that does fair housing and landlord-tenant is also involved in advocacy, but the balance has to be appropriate and it has to be working.
Right, thank you.
Sorry, I have one more question. So as you all are evaluating their contract, are they still under the old contract so that citizens still should have an expectation to get service when they call? And has it ever been laid out in terms of when people should expect a phone call back? Is it 24 hours? Is that reasonable?
We have never had an absolute 24-hour response. Sometimes that isn't feasible, but we have not had the kinds of problems we're having with lack of timely response. So that's something that we can discuss and ask for a commitment for an expectation of how quickly people will be responded to. are not under contract with them right now. Their official contract ran out, or their agreement, I should say. It's not a contract, it's really actually a grant, was ending as of the first of this year, and normally we fund them for our fiscal year. Part of the turnover and change in their organization, they have an interim executive director right now because David Luna left, and there's some other changes going on. So we weren't rushing this forward until we could figure out what was going on with them. And so what we can certainly request in any agreement is a much more specific timeframes for response, and all those sorts of details that we can then follow up and get very specific outcomes against. That's what we're looking to do.
Thank you. And if, when you get them up to speed, them or whomever fills this role, if they can be educated on our needs of our Northwestern students that are living off campus so that they can get assistance from them as well. So there's been some gaps in services for that community for their housing needs.
Okay, thank you. We'll look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, anybody? Okay. Well, that ends the items on our agenda. Staff, are there any communications? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, City Council will begin in, thank you. City Council will begin in 10 minutes, which is 5 to 8. Thank you all for coming.